So we're going to do something different today, and that is because I don't have a defined topic. Usually I come at these things and I'm like, hey, we're going to do a shootout, or here's like a top whatever list. This is a little bit of a mishmash, a little bit of a state of my collecting as we start out 2023. I know it's only been a week, but I've been pretty irresponsible in terms of some of the stuff that I've been buying. And so I want to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about how already my sort of mentality has kind of shifted. And sometimes I get into specific labels and things like that, and I just go really deep, and that's kind of what's happened. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about a crazy score. And then what's the other thing? Oh, I just got back like an hour ago from Macon, Georgia. I went to a place called Fresh Produce Records, which seems like the only game in town. I don't know. There's probably like antique shops and stuff, or maybe there's another store, but that was the one I went to in addition to some antique shops looking for stuff. And I thought I'd share just some of the stuff that I came across. So let's get right into. I'm going to get this crazy grab out of the way. So this was about a week ago that I got it in anyway. I'm trying to remember when the auction ended. It took a little bit. This seller had no idea what they're doing, and so I want to set the stage. What I saw on eBay, all right, was here's a picture of it, okay? And here was the heading: Joe Henderson, Mode for Joe, Blue Note, Japan LP vinyl, promo hype sticker. So if you look at this photo, what you don't see is any evidence of it being a Japanese reissue, nor promo, and you don't see any hype sticker. And the buy it now price was $25.88. So when I saw this is like kind of what goes through my head. I see this blurry photo. This is the only one. Actually, there were 3 photos, but it was all of the exact same thing. And here's the thing. I didn't see evidence of those things in the photo. So what I thought was, worst comes to worst. Not worst comes to worst, but like it could either be an original, it could be a Liberty reissue, maybe United Artists reissue, maybe like a blue and black label kind of reissue. But in any of those situations, for $25.88, I'm all in. So let me also read. I'll show you the record in a second. Let me also read the description, which is ridiculous. So the description said, "Join me as I dig through storage. I won these records in a competition. I have stacks and stacks of vinyl. If I'm giving away some too cheap, oh well. Some I know are worth hundreds. For those, don't try and fool me. Others, not so much. Either way, I'm doing deals." That's what the description said. Obviously, there's no grading on the record, okay? But still, $25.88. I love taking chances. I don't like going to Vegas, but I love gambling on records on eBay. So this is what I got in, right? So Mode for Joe, Joe Henderson, mono. You can see on the back. What you don't see, and I'm trying to think if there's a reissue of this with it, and there probably is. You don't see that like black Blue Note label here, which means, that's good. There's also no like barcode or like anything like that. No sign of it being a French reissue. And here is the label. So that is a New York, USA label. Mono, Van Gelder stamp. Doesn't have an ear, doesn't need it. Never had an ear, wasn't Plastolite, despite the catalog number 4227. Was not a Plastolite copy. So what this is an original mono. $25.88. So anyway, ended up being a great deal. And just to save you the time, I've been following this seller since to see if anything else that's good is listed. Somebody else grabbed something before I got this. I haven't seen anything else. So you can go research it if you want, but I've been following it like a hawk, and they haven't been putting anything else out, which makes me think somebody else either contacted them or their stacks and stacks of vinyl only had like a couple of like really great ones and everything else was not. So very excited about that. I already have a stereo, so I don't know what I'm going to do about that. But anyway, really exciting purchase to sort of start out the new year because I just got it in, I think, after Jan 1. All right, first topic done. Okay, so now a little bit about how I've been irresponsible. Or not like, I mean, here's the thing. I make rational choices. I'm an adult, right? So I had some time over the break, over the holiday break, and I spent some of that time cataloging my records and kind of noting as I was doing it, right? Because every time I catalog something in Discogs, I'm also looking at the prices, the recent prices that some of these things have gone for. And I'm inputting my condition and all that because I like to kind of like to have my Discogs collection sort of as updated as possible, so that if I'm ever in a store and I think like, wait, do I still have that record, or what's the condition of mine? Do I need an upgrade? Then I can like reference it, right? So I'm like, usually when I'm flipping through stuff, it's like with one hand I got my phone in the other, trying to like be like, wait, do I have this, or like what's the deal? Or I'm like, you know, phone up to ear listening to something to see if it's a record I've never heard of before, if it's something I want to grab. Anyway, so I'm cataloging stuff, noting the escalating value of certain titles. And as I'm doing that, I'm keeping a mental note and thinking about what's to come in 2023. And here's the thing, it's anybody's guess, right? Yeah, I'm no, I have no idea. I'm not able to predict, what people are going to want to spend money for. But even independent of that, like, I'm always interested in new music. And so where should I focus my effort on trying to find that new music, especially when you consider that as much as I like new music and I follow that, there's still so much of the old stuff to explore. And what I was thinking about, and what I sort of came to the conclusion of, and this is a hypothesis, you can either agree or disagree, is that labels like, Muse and Milestone have obviously been going up in value. And if you look across those catalogs, you actually see a ton of titles that have gone up quite a bit just in the last 2 years. And, here's the thing. Pandemic and sort of inflated values and stuff, some of that may come a little bit down. But in any event, what I was looking for is are there other labels that I've been missing that I should probably get into in case this stuff becomes prohibitively expensive? And you may think that's a silly way of looking at it, but there's been so many times where I wish that I picked something up before it became popular. And so I thought I'd do my due diligence and try to listen to more music, just stream it, listen to clips that are posted on YouTube or that are posted on Discogs, and try to get a sense of other albums that I feel like I might be interested in and that I should prioritize when I start looking around in stores. All right. So one of the titles that I was looking at is Carter Jefferson. And here, I'm usually I try to do all my research before I hop on this thing, but I'm going to plug this into my computer here and verify the title. So it is, so Carter Jefferson has a title on the Timeless Records label, sometimes called Timeless Muse. And it is called The Rise of Atlantis. Okay. So this is an album that I purchased for about $20 or so, maybe a year or two ago. And what I noted as I was putting it into cataloging it, was that the average price right now is $50, and the highest it's gone for is $100, and there's only 2 available right now, and they're both over $90. So I was like, oh, okay, wow, I was surprised that this Carter Jefferson record had increased in value so much, and I noted that it was on the Timeless Muse label. I don't know the full story behind this. Timeless Muse seems to be a subsidiary of Muse to some degree, but here's the problem. In Europe, they just called it Timeless. When they brought it to the US, they called it Timeless Muse, but not every record on Timeless actually made it over to Timeless Muse for the US audience. So if you go on Discogs and you're looking up Timeless Muse, you're only going to get a subset, but if you go to Timeless, you'll see the rest of them. And so what I decided to do was I wanted to go through the entire Timeless catalog. And while I was at it, I decided to go through the entire Theresa catalog, India Navigation, as well as Palo Alto Jazz. Sometimes you'll see it on a cover and it's PAJ, but that's I don't even think you're supposed to pronounce that, or maybe you are, I don't know. But it's Palo Alto Jazz. I suppose you could pronounce it Page or something if you wanted to. I don't know. So what I did was I went through the entire catalogs and I streamed samples. I streamed tracks from basically not everything, because there's some stuff where I was like, I'm probably not going to be interested in that. Because you can't expect an entire label to have everything that you're interested in. And I went through, and a number of them I was already following because I knew about, but there was a ton of them that I was not familiar with at all. And so I just started like watching all of these different records, and while I was at it, I started buying. And what I realized is that a lot of these records that sounded really good, you could get like sealed copies of, like essentially dead stock, or like near mint copies of stuff for not much money whatsoever. And so I started adding some of them on, I started buying some of them on Discogs. And here's the thing, I'm not spending more than like $4 or $5 or like $10 maybe for most of these records because people are not paying attention, with the obvious exceptions of stuff on Indie Navigation that goes, for a lot of money, right? There's the Pharoah Sanders record and there's some other things. But by and large, the stuff that I was looking for seemed to, like, nobody had it on their radar. So in addition to, like, after going through that process, I've been to now a few stores in Atlanta, and I have been shocked at how much of that very same stuff that I only just discovered, that I only just started listening to, that I could find in the store immediately for cheap, like $6, $8, $10. So, for example, just a couple of examples, and then we'll move on. But so I found this George Adams quintet, Paradise Space Shuttle. George Adams, fantastic. I don't think I'd heard much of his stuff. This is on Timeless Muse. This one was $10. Got at a local store. Has Ron Burton, Don Pate, Al Foster, and Zedden Weston. Really, really good stuff. George Adams on tenor here and flute as well is fantastic. Plus, like, I mean, I don't buy stuff just because of the cover, but the cover sometimes entices me. And like, what a great cover! Like, you almost like know that this is going to be good. Check that out. Very happy with that purchase. Another one that I was surprised to see. This one was actually $15, but it had Joe Henderson on it. Back to Joe. This is on the Palo Alto Jazz label. David Friesen, I guess, with Chick Corea, Joe Henderson, Paul Horn, Paul Motion. I mean, this is called Amber Skies. Great, great lineup, obviously. I don't think anybody can argue with that. But really exciting music, too. And this was just because, like, this stuff was already in the store. It's probably been in the stores for weeks. And it's just I only came across it because I'd just been previewing some of the stuff. ECM, by the way, was another label that I was previewing some stuff. Although I'm always very careful with ECM because some of that stuff is too smooth for me. So anyway, where we are now is I found about 6 titles that were sealed on those labels. I bought 9 on Discogs that again were like $5 or $6, granted plus shipping, but I was buying multiple from the same seller. So in order to like sort of cut my losses. And I just feel like I have a ton of inventory now that's just come in. I haven't listened to these albums yet, but I'm like super excited at all this new music, and it didn't cost very much. So maybe I'm stupid. Maybe this stuff is never going to increase in value, but here's the thing. I'm not buying it because it's going to increase in value, although I did say I'm buying it because I'm scared it's going to increase in value because I want to be able to afford it while I can if it's something that I enjoy. And I know that I enjoy it because I previewed the stuff. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at right now in terms of my collecting. I found myself pivoting a little bit in terms of focusing on some of these labels that I decided to really dive into and that are exciting to me right now. So, I don't know what the takeaway is for you. If there's titles on these labels and you want to explore them too, then that's great. But I also think you should just pick a label. Just generally, I'm not saying that everybody should be amassing records right now. Far from it. I just think that if you're bogged down by the price of popular jazz records or collectible records, then broaden your horizons and pick a label that not everybody cares about. Look at like the old Concord discography, or like I don't know. I mean, look at like something else, fantasy or something, and just start going through titles and figuring out. Or one thing I do. Everybody loves Joe Henderson. Not everybody, but I love Joe Henderson. A lot of people do. Look up not his dates as a leader, but look at the stuff that he guests on, because he had a head on his shoulders. He was on some really good records that weren't necessarily his records. And so that's a good way to find good music too. Is pick an artist that you're into already, find out the stuff that they guested on, and preview the stuff. and see if that speaks to you, because I know that there's a lot of new collectors out there that are disappointed with how sort of inaccessible some of these great records are. It's a great way to get ahead of the trend, right? To find stuff before the values go up. All right, that's topic number 2. All right, last topic. I mentioned that I just got back from Fresh Produce Records in Macon, Georgia. I've never been to Macon in my life. Decided to go down there, not squarely for records. I was also kind of like, I'm trying to furnish an investment property right now, and I was looking for stuff. But, they have a record store. I've heard good things about it. They're on Instagram. Yeah, you should check them out, because I was actually very impressed. Tell you what I left behind? I left behind a copy of Reasons and Tonality on Strata East. I think it was an original, only because I already had it. It's sitting there. It wasn't like, I think it was like $90. So if anybody needs that. The other one that I left behind is Roots on New Jazz. So this is catalog 8202. Has Idris Suleiman on it. Who else? I want to say like Bill Evans is on it. Like a bunch of cats. Great record. It's the Bergenfield label, Deep Groove original, right before they went to the New Jazz label. $70. And here's the thing. I already have one. The only issue, I would have just grabbed a duplicate and then maybe sold it. But there was like a little feelable on it. There's a little feelable scratch, and I was like, you know what? Somebody else is going to be excited about this. The cover wasn't in great shape, but it could definitely be cleaned up with a magic eraser kind of thing. But anyway, I left that one behind. They have some good stuff. I was impressed, and I got some good stuff. I took home some good stuff. It's not like I left it all there. But those are 2 that I was like, ooh man, somebody is going to be quite excited to see these. So I actually get enjoyment out of out of seeing stuff and not taking it. If I already have it, and if I'm like there's not enough meat on the bone for me to do anything with it, so I'm just going to leave it. Just because I know that if there's anybody who's like a clone of me or whatever who's out there who's excited about jazz, they're going to be excited when they see that stuff in the stacks. So let's talk about some of the stuff that I came away with. Nothing too crazy, but I wanted to show these because I wanted to talk about the things that I've been paying attention to lately in light of those labels that I just mentioned, right? So the first title that I wanted to show is Elvin Jones, and it is called Earth Jones, featuring David Liebman. Who else is on this? Terumasa Hino, George Mraz, I think that's how I pronounce it, Kenny Kirkland. So this is on the Palo Alto Jazz label. I've listened to this already just since I've got back. This happens to be a promo copy. Great shape. And I think it was like $8. I would not have paid any attention to this. I know it's Elvin Jones, but it's a later Elvin Jones. This is 1982. I was alive when this came out. But Rudy Van Gelder is the engineer on it. I mean, how can you go wrong here? So really excited here. I'm sorry. I'll show this a little bit closer so you can see it. Really excited about finding this one, and I have heard it, like I said, and it's great. And I can't wait to. I've actually only heard side 1. Can't wait to hear side 2. Very excited about that one. And again, on one of those labels that I just was previewing. So another one, I mentioned I was getting into Theresa Records. So here is one on Theresa Records. George Coleman, Manhattan Panorama. 1985. Gosh, this may officially be the latest jazz record that I have until you jump to, the 2000s or whatever, with some of the more recent stuff. But George Coleman, obviously tenor, and I guess he's a saxophonist across the board, but at least I associate him mostly with being a tenor. I think that's right. You also have Harold Mayburn on this, Jamil Nasser, and Idris Muhammad. So is a later one. I did preview it in the store. I heard a great track. It sounded like George Coleman sounded great, and I thought, this has got to be something that comes home with me. I want to say it was $6, and it's fun to get excited about cheap stuff. This one wasn't quite as cheap, but very excited to see it. So, Dexter Gordon, The Tower of Power with James Moody, Barry Harris, Buster Williams, and Tootie Heath. So, later prestige Dexter, sometimes I get a little bit nervous that it's like maybe a reissue or like rechanneled stereo or something. This is not. It was recorded, I want to say, in 68 or 69. Also, the shortest track on here is over 8 minutes. So for me, when I'm looking at the, trying to find out if something is like I want to say a money grab, because I don't want to accuse Dexter Gordon of like doing something like that. But if, you don't necessarily want to buy 60s jazz records of just like Beatles covers, right? And so the fact that they stretch here on these 4 tracks was quite exciting. Great lineup, lovely cover, which you can't ignore. I mean, great stuff. So I had to grab that one. Here's a weird one. Not a weird one, but like the cover's terrible. So this is Bobby Hutcherson, Farewell Keystone. This has Billy Higgins, Oscar Brashear, Harold Land, Cedar Walton, and Buster Williams. You cannot touch that lineup, and that is the reason why I had to pick it up. Also, I mean, come on, Bobby Hutcherson and Harold Land together is one of the best combinations in jazz. Maybe Bobby Hutcherson and Joe Chambers is another, or like Joe Henderson and Kenny Dorham or whatever. You can keep doing it. But very excited to see this one, and this is on Theresa. So again, wouldn't have been aware of it, wouldn't have noticed it. Okay, I would have noticed Bobby Hutcherson, but it wouldn't have really like jumped out to me. I still have not previewed anything on this. It is a live date, but given that lineup, I just figured it has to be good, and we'll find out if it is. Next one I was definitely aware of. Already own a stereo of this, but very excited to see it. And this is Billy Mitchell on Smash Records. So who do we have here? You have Clarence Anderson on organ, Bobby Hutcherson again on vibes, Herman Wright on bass, Otis Finch on drums. There's also a little bit of an alternate lineup with Billy Wallace and Dave Burns on trumpet. But I know that this is a fantastic album. Was very excited to see this mono copy. I can't wait to compare it to my stereo and figure out which one I like better. But anyway, very excited to see that in store. Never seen one of those records in store. Also, right there with it, next to it, another Billy Mitchell title. This is on Catalyst. I didn't mention Catalyst as a label that I was getting into because I don't think it's a very robust label. There's not a lot of titles on it, but there are some great ones on Catalyst. And Billy Mitchell, again, never heard of this thing. It's called Now's the Time Live. So you have Roland Prince on electric guitar, you have Wes Belcamp on piano, Ron Terso on drums, Al Beldini subs in on drums, and you also have Earl May on bass. But based on my love for Billy Mitchell's stuff elsewhere, not only on his 2 Smash titles, I want to say he has some stuff on Argo, supporting others, maybe Al Gray. I think he's on some Al Gray stuff. And anyway, yeah, I mean, it's live, but no idea what this is going to sound like, and very excited to find out. Never seen this record in my life. Next one that I found, also one I'm aware of, also one I already have, but had to grab it because it was not expensive whatsoever. This is Pony Poindexter. So he has a record on Prestige. I think it narrowly misses New Jazz. Let me think about that for a second, because he has one that's called like Gumbo, but then he has another one that is on New Jazz. Okay, so he has one that's on like Prestige, and it's like a 16,000 series, which is kind of a weird series. And then he also has one on New Jazz. Pony Poindexter is excellent. He is he's an amazing musician. You also have Gene Quill, Phil Woods, Eric Dolphy, Pepper Adams, and Dexter Gordon here. So there's a number of saxophonists that are all in that kind of choir. You also have Charles Persip on drums, Bill Yancey on bass, Guido Mahones on piano, and I think that's it. Anyway, Ponies Express, tough one to find on the Epic label. I think this is $20. And yeah, now I have the ability to potentially upgrade my copy. Last one, another Prestige title. I was actually surprised at some of these that were on Prestige that they had that I don't always come across. And I don't think I've ever come across this one. Opus de Don. So Don Patterson with Blue Mitchell, Junior Cook, Pat Martino, and Billy James. So I am not the biggest fan of Don Patterson, not going to lie. A lot of his stuff is trio format. So if you see his stuff on Prestige, by and large, it's in trio format. I don't go for that stuff. There's some great covers, but I just don't go for like an organ trio that much. Not that exciting to me. But because you have Junior Cook, who I love, and Blue Mitchell, who I also love, joining him along with Pat Martino on guitar, I mean, come on. So excited to hear this. Haven't heard it yet. Maybe it's garbage, but was not expensive. So happy to get that. So that's kind of the state of things. I have a bunch of stuff in transit. I'm not going to talk about that now. Maybe I'll do a separate video that's like a follow-up to show you sort of my progress with finding stuff on Timeless and some of these other labels. But yeah, I think I fulfilled my mission in having a sort of mishmash video about nothing. We'll find out whether you find this exciting, or I should go back to my more focused videos, if you consider my typical 30-minute videos focused. But in any event, thanks for tuning in. Once again, please hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.